Roll them.
Welcome to Coach's Kitchen. Welcome everybody to Coach's Kitchen. I, of course, am Coach Julia, along with your Purpose Geek, and this is
Coach Kristen from CoachKristen9.com.
Woo, so famous.
See how I threw that in there?
I love that. It was really beautiful. And we, to no surprise, have a really cool bunch of recipes for you today, and we're going to talk about getting out of your comfort zone. So today, I know, hold on, I'll see you later. So today I thought a little bit about keeping it vegan. So you hear a lot of, and I know Coach Kristen, you hear this all the time. It's just do more plant-based things. Do more plant-based things. Now, when I had my cats, they ate grass, so that's fun. Should I also go and eat grass?
And mice.
And mice. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. But, you know, thinking about more plant-based things, sometimes we don't know where to start. And I myself am not a vegan, but I do eat a lot of plant-based meals. Number one, because they're more cost-effective. But also number two, like, I don't like to cook meat. I don't have time for that. And it takes forever for some reason. And I like things to be quick, ready, and easy when I need them. And at the same time, also freezable. So I have two soups that are entirely plant-based and vegan to present to you today. And maybe you'll make them, maybe you won't, but that's okay. That's the whole point of Coach's Wellbeing Kitchen. You choose what's best for you. And I think for some people, this is getting out of a comfort zone because we're used to certain things that we like, certain things that comfort us, certain things that are maybe a little bit safe. So hopefully these soups will not only be delicious, but they'll be something that you can add to your fancy repertoire as well that you didn't realize that you could make before.
Absolutely.
Let's get started.
Now, I'll say a word about vegan. I love, you don't have to be a vegan to eat some plant-based meals. Yeah. So don't be intimidated by the word vegan or like this super plant-based restrictive thing. This is just get some meals in there that are plant-based.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're going to see how easy and delicious and fun it can be.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about this episode because I make tons of soups and I love vegetables. So
yeah, awesome.
Love seeing what you're bringing today.
All right, then I'm going to bring it. Let's go. All right, everybody. So here is what we're going to be doing. We're going to make a Quinoa Black Bean Chili. So for all really, really good soups, stews, what have you, you're going to start with quality ingredients. So a little extra virgin olive oil. And I'm going to flat out tell you it's from one of my favorite olive oil producers based in Queen Creek, Arizona. I absolutely love them. So we're going to heat this on medium. Get this a nice, let it spread a little bit. And to that,
let it get shimmery.
Let it all get shimmery, like the rest of us. Get shimmery.
Shimmery.
It is shimmering and shining, my friends. So I'm going to turn this up just a little bit. And then I'm going to add in about half a cup of onions. So one of the things that I want to point out about both of these recipes, this is all stuff I happen to have in my fridge. So when you're making a soup, your base is in your aromatics, right? So onions, garlic are really, really good, unless, of course, you're sensitive to those kind of things. And then if you're sensitive, then just leave them out. I mean, anything that you're going to see in this chili right now is anything that I happen to have usually in my fridge. So use whatever vegetables are available to you. You don't have to worry about having exactly what I have in this pot. So we're gonna saute out these onions just a little bit, and you will see me add just a tiny bit of salt every time I add in an ingredient. Builds the layers of flavor. All right. So to this, we're going to add about a cup of chopped carrots. And again, they were all whole before I chopped them. I know, watch out, everybody, watch out.
Scandalous.
I know.
And a lot of everything that you're doing here, Julia, is the basis for any soup or stew. These are always going to be your first few steps.
Always.
So build the layers with the aromatics and add a little salt.
I'll add the little salt.
Pinch of salt.
Okay.
And I'll put a plug in for a really great cast iron pot too.
Boom. Yeah, great enamel covered cast iron pot.
Yep.
I know at home I have a Tramontina, which you can get, at any big box retail store. Very cost effective as well, so you don't have to go spending on the really expensive ones unless of course you want to, which is amazing. And then on top of that, I'm going to add in, literally for me, since this is for me, I'm just going to add in about a cup of frozen broccoli.
Good.
Right?
That's a good hack. You got some extra vegetables. A lot of people complain that the reason they don't like plant-based cooking is because the vegetables go bad so quickly in the refrigerator. So how do you freeze those veggies? Do you steam them first? Do you blanch them?
So I freeze them, not blanched, not steamed at all. I just freeze them raw.
Awesome.
And use them as I need them. Going in here is a cup of mushrooms as well.
That's even faster.
Yeah, you could do whatever you'd like. Now, for me, I go to a really great local farmer's market, and I buy a ton of produce at a time. So anything that I know is not going to keep, I love broccoli. I love Brussels sprouts. So the Brussels sprouts go really, really fast. But then again, honestly, for me, it's important for me to shop seasonally. That's just a thing for me. So, I like to buy a lot of things in bulk because I, kind of can't make the trip all the time. And then I just cut the fresh vegetables that I'm not going to use immediately, and then I just put them in the freezer.
Brilliant.
I know.
And there's nothing wrong with frozen vegetables in terms of their nutrient content. So use them.
Right. You should. As you should, friends.
And freezing your own when they're fresh from a farmer's market, I mean, you can't beat that.
You can't get any better. So this is about a tablespoon of chopped garlic. So again, this is a chili. I like to have mine a little bit garlicky. And now we're gonna get into this, okay?
Ooh.
So here's one of my other secret hacks. A lot of times when you're sauteing things, people will tend to add, oil to the bottom of the pan, and then they'll add a little bit more oil as, things start to stick or whatever. You don't even have to do that. All you have to do is get fancy and glaze the pan with the broth that you're going to use. And this is a really good, high quality, low sodium vegetable broth. It's legit a vegetable broth. Because remember, we're keeping it vegan. But I like to add a little bit of the vegetable broth or whatever you happen to be using. You can even use water, and then you don't have to use a bunch of extra oil as well. So if your vegetables are sticking a little bit, or if you need a little bit more sauteing time, then adding a little bit of broth to let that cook down is going to be your best friend. So there's that, and now we'll really get into it. So at the base of my chili, I love tomato paste. Love tomato paste a whole lot. So it adds really deep flavor. So this is about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And what we're going to do with that is it's going to blend into the vegetables and really cook down before I add any other tomatoes. So I have a can of tomatoes here just waiting for us.
Smells great. Beautiful thing about canned tomatoes and tomato paste is when they're canned and cooked like this and concentrated, it increases the lycopene, which is one of those beautiful phytonutrients in tomatoes.
See, this is all the good stuff. This is a really good chili.
It's good.
Chili in quotes. We did the smoothie episodes, and I had asked the question, will it smoothie? So, will it chili? Yes, it will chili. Whatever it is, it will chili. So we're going to let this cook down for about a minute, but while that's doing all of that, we have a lot. I'm heavy on the spices, especially when it comes to a chili. So on top of the garlic, I'm also adding in garlic powder. So this is about a teaspoon of garlic powder, and I tend to measure as I go. So, if all the recipes are going to be, across the top of the screen, probably right now as I'm pointing up, at the same time as in the comments. So I'll give exact measurements, but I love cooking because cooking is by feel. That was a tiny, tiny sprinkle of cayenne pepper.
Ooh.
And now we're talking cumin seed. So with cumin seed, we're talking like a good chunky tablespoon of cumin, ground cumin, because ground cumin is really going to give the chili that pop. And when you're adding all of the other ingredients, it's really going to add to the flavor. This is also coriander. Coriander, it's the ground seed of the cilantro plant. You do not have to use coriander at all. It's just something that I happen to have on hand quite often.
It's nice and warm. It doesn't taste cilantro-y, really.
Not at all. No, it just adds like a really nice lemony brightness. That was black pepper. That was about a half teaspoon of black pepper because we also have the cayenne pepper in there, and the tomatoes that I'm using are spiced. You got to go with the oregano. So we're talking about 2 tablespoons of oregano, because oregano is really going to give it that pop and that kick. So that's oregano. And then finally, the spice that's closest to my heart, smoked paprika. Smoked paprika I use in basically everything. I'm surprised I don't use it in baking recipes, but then again, I don't bake. So, you know, that's probably why, because I use smoked paprika. We're talking a good 1 to 2 tablespoons of smoked paprika, which adds that smokiness. Oh, you're going to love it. So we're going to add that in with the cumin, with the tomatoes, with the garlic, with the salt, with everything else. And then we have a nice cooked down pasty chili. And you can smell, smell that? That's amazing. Look at that color.
It's nice and concentrated and flavorful.
Oh yeah. All right, and then this is a cup of quinoa. So this is going to make...
Is that cooked quinoa?
This is not cooked quinoa. This is actually soaked quinoa. So, you know, when I first started eating quinoa, the surprise was, why is it so bitter?
Yep.
And what is a really good tip, and one that I learned over the years, is you should really rinse your quinoa before you use it, before you put it in a recipe, because there could be a little bit of what they call saponin, which is attached to the quinoa, because quinoa is technically a seed, and it could make your quinoa a little bit bitter. Something that I've noticed in red quinoa, actually, especially. So I actually soaked this overnight, kind of give it a good rinse before I brought it here to you today. And what I want to do with quinoa is I want to get that toasted just a little bit. And I tend to do this with all my quinoa when I happen to make it, is I toast it a little bit in the pan before I add any liquid. And then it's going to be the final star of our show before adding just a little pinch of salt. That's a good tip too for soups. You don't want to add too much salt on the front end, because you don't want to end up with a salty, inedible soup. So just adding a little pinch at a time, like not even a 1/4 teaspoon. I use my hand, so I shake it into my hand, just a shake or two is good.
Yep. And add an ingredient, add a pinch of salt.
Absolutely. Just a tiny, tiny bit. And then the star of the show. So the black beans, in case you were wondering, since this is a lentil, since this is a quinoa black bean chili, I add the black beans in the last 5 minutes of cooking. Now this is easy peasy lemon squeezy, my friends, because this is going to take just 15 minutes to cook. So in the last 5 minutes of cooking, in will go the black beans. But here I have a can of diced fire roasted tomatoes. Sometimes they have the chili in them, sometimes they don't have the chili in them. This particular can does have chilies in them, so there's a little bit of a kick, a little bit of heat. I highly recommend fire roasted tomatoes because, again, it adds that little bit of smokiness and that little bit of extra spice to
more flavor.
The chili you're trying to create.
So the black beans, those were canned black beans that are cooked, right? You're not using raw beans.
You can, if you are really good at cooking beans, you can use freshly cooked beans if you want to, if that's kind of your thing. I tend to use canned, so it's one 15-ounce can of black beans, yeah. And again, organic or regular, you really have to take a look when we're making soups and getting out of our comfort zones and really making this kind of easy peasy lemon squeezy. You really just want to do whatever works best for your budget. You know, this isn't anything that's incredibly fancy. So this is on a good medium heat. We're going to put a lid on this. We're going to let this cook for about 15 minutes, and then legit, my friends, this is going to be done. So there we go. I'll see you for soup.
Hi.
Hi. Okay. So it's been about 15 minutes, and so when I lift this up, this is what you're going to see. Now, one note about this is there is so much water in the can of diced tomatoes that I actually don't need any extra because I want this to be a really thick and rich chili. But if you should find that some of your stuff is sticking to the bottom of the pan, you can add a little bit of broth and you'll be good to go. One of the things I will say, and because I, taste tested it, because you definitely do want to taste test, is the flavor is on point, needs a little bit more salt, and at this point, because it's done, you can add that. So I'm actually going to add about 1/4 teaspoon to 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Really brings out the flavors, works with the brightness, and add a 15-ounce can of rinsed black beans. And because of using the frozen vegetables as well, they kind of gave off their water, so there's already a lot of water in this recipe. And again, depending on how thick and rich you want your vegetable chili to be, you can make it as much or as little as you would like. Always just be careful though, make sure that, nothing burns. So you want to keep this on medium to low heat. Let that quinoa simmer, let those black beans simmer together. And I add the black beans to the end because I don't want them to fall apart. I want them to retain their structure. So in this short amount of time, we still have pretty solid, crisp, but not like overly tender vegetables. We have tender quinoa, we have tender black beans, and we have a quinoa black bean vegan chili.
Awesome. Soup's on.
Soup's on. Okay. Soup part 2. Boom. All right. So, hello everybody. We have our second soup. So our lentil.
Cut.